Welcome to the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Brooks, and here you'll find teaching topics, interviews, conversations, and coaching tips, all designed to help you level up. We all lead someone. The question is, are we leading well, exceptionally well? So join me on a quest, not for perfection, but absolutely for exceptional leadership. Hey, exceptional leaders. Today we're going to talk about driving measurable performance in business. This is the theme of this time of our recording, which is April 2023, but it is an evergreen topic. Every business that I do coaching with wants in some capacity to make sure that they are driving performance, but many of them struggle with how to measure that. So I want to share a couple of stories that from recent coaching scopes that I've been working in, as well as to give you some very practical tips. So I'm going to go through a list of ways to drive measurable performance in business at the end of the show. So make sure you stay tuned in. But the first thing I want to talk about is something I'm doing currently in one of my business coaching scopes. And so I'm working with different levels and layers of leadership. So I started with the executive team, and from there, they asked me to work with their middle managers. And then on from there, they asked me to work with their frontline supervisors. And then they have some new leaders. So I'm actually doing like leadership 101 basic leadership training with that group. So I actually have 4 layers of leadership training going on. And as you can imagine, as I'm going through this, there's a lot of really cool creativity and progress that happens because my mind is literally firing on all leadership cylinders. And as I went through some different activities and exercises, it's so fun. I'll just use that word because for me it is fun. I know I'm a little bit geeky about business, but it's who I am. But it's been fun to see some of the things that have sparked and really lit people up. And that's been one of my coaching exercises, at least with some of my leaders, is for them to go throughout their day and look for things that light them up in a positive, happy, productive way. So one of the middle managers, she ended up, she's just so inspiring. She's so coachable. I love working with her. And she came up with an idea that when she shared the idea with me, one, I absolutely encouraged her and am supporting her in that, but it also prompted me to kind of flesh that out a little bit and magnify it. And so what it's resulted in or culminated in has become what I'm calling the 100K coaching challenge. And now you're going to understand why for me this is fun. I have challenged the middle managers in this group to each brainstorm, think, come up with some ideas of ways that they can help increase net profitability for the company by the end of the year in the amount of $100,000 or more. So I want you to take note of a few things in that. One, it is very measurable. So obviously we have the $100,000 point. So that's a measurement. We also have a date-driven deadline. That's another measurement. So we can measure by that time span. And then I have been working with them to help them develop ways to now take the raw idea and flesh that out and then create actually a project proposal, or in some cases, projects plural proposal, so that it can be presented to the executive team. Now, just pause with me for a moment. Can you imagine being that executive leader and having your people come to you proactively and say, I want to present an idea I have that I believe is going to generate a minimum of $100,000 in increased net profits for our company. How would you feel? Pretty sure you'd be excited. Now multiply that over multiple people and think about the addition to net profits that could drive. See, I'm all about everything that I do. And again, I'll go back to the P4 power coaching model. What are our 4 Ps? People, processes, performance, profitability. When you inspire people, and I didn't do this as some kind of directive, I didn't dictate this, but I've inspired these people to come up with these ideas, and I've helped them. So I've not just assignment to them and just walked away and left them, kind of saying, well, how do I put this together? No, I'm walking shoulder to shoulder to help them create it. But because of this, they are going to generate what I'm estimating is going to be nearly $1 million annually. Okay. This can be replicated year after year after year. These ideas that they've come up with. And they just presented them to me the other day. We're working together to help flush and formalize them so that they will be ready for presentation to executive leadership within a few weeks. I am ecstatic. I cannot wait for all of this to unfold. But because we are focusing on the measurement of net profits, not just increased income or revenues or additional sales, but net profits, it really hones in on something that every business, frankly, needs. Some of them desperately need this. And so how exciting to get your people involved in making that happen. So exceptional leaders, listen to this. Get inspired and don't be afraid to draw your people in to the process of helping to beef up your bottom line and to increase those net profits. It is just, I wish I could share with you some of the ideas, but it's not my place to share this, especially not ahead of the game because they're going to present to the executive team, but exciting things. And here's what I love about doing an exercise like this. It increases engagement exponentially. People get excited when it's their idea. And here's the thing too. I can assure you that already from what I've heard, there are some ideas that no one else has thought of. That is phenomenal. That's when you really dig into the richness. You hit the vein of the great stuff that you're looking for. And this is a way that businesses can not only increase their income, prime their profits, but they can remain sustainable. They can strengthen their sustainability, which is my mission at P4 Power Coaching. So that is one very recent example of a way that I'm helping to drive measurable performance for one of my clients. But I want to give you another one. So something else that I've done is I have given some executives in one of my businesses the coaching challenge. Well, I call it the communication coaching challenge because there've been we'll just say some weak spots in the communication. So when an employee would reach out to someone in leadership, especially at this level, what was happening is oftentimes they were getting crickets in response. Well, what does this do psychologically to an employee? One, it makes them question themselves. Doubts, insecurities will rise to the occasion. It's so crazy how the human mind will fill in gaps, but sometimes it will fill them in ways that are not accurate. They're inappropriate, but we don't know that. So our emotions will lie to us and we'll believe those lies. And so we can convince ourselves of all manner of things that someone is thinking simply because of the silence. So exceptional leader, don't let someone else fill in the gaps because of your silence. Be responsive. So in this communication coaching challenge, what I have said is for 30 days, so there's our measurable, they are to be responsive within 24 business hours, another measurable, so that people begin to feel as if they're hearing them. Even if you're just saying, look, I received your email. I need to process. I need to do some research. I need to think about this. I will get back with you by such and such a date. Make it measurable. But by doing that, at least people know you received the email, because sometimes that's its own thing. It's like that fear of the unknown. Did they get my email? Am I going to bug them if I send them another one? What do I do? But this way they understand you've received the email. You just need a little bit more time. Now, it's your responsibility to make sure that you do respond in the time span that you give them. But that initial responsiveness by itself just helps people have almost that inner sigh of relief, and it doesn't diminish their confidence or take away maybe the fire that they have for an exciting new project. But that's another way to be able to measure performances by putting date stamps on things. Another thing I like to remind my leaders when it comes to driving performance is to create a clear vision that defines the true expectations of what you want. Sometimes we're really abstract in the way that we describe things. We don't really define clearly, specifically, in detail what it is we're looking for, what we expect the end result to look like. Make sure that you do that. That is going to be another way that you can measure whether or not someone has met the expectation, is because you defined it clearly at the front end. And don't be afraid to say what it is you really want. If it's net profits, be honest about that. If it's increasing employee engagement and morale because the energy in your business is low, then speak it out loud. But whatever it is that you desire, be clear and make it measurable for your people and yourself. And remember, measurements can come in the form of dollars, date stamps, like goal deadlines, or productivity or performance numbers. Any of those are ways that you can measure whether you're being successful or not. So let me give you now some very practical ways that you can drive measurable performance in business. And there's going to be a list of 8 items here. And I just want you, as I'm going through them, to ask yourself the question, are we doing it? If the answer is yes, then the next question is, are we doing it well, exceptionally well? Are we clear? Are we consistent? Is it something that everybody's on board with? Or do we maybe have some breaches in our process where maybe things are falling apart? Either everyone's not following the process all the way through, maybe we have a broken process, or maybe people are just ignoring the process. Really evaluate whether you're doing this exceptionally well. Because if you follow some of these measurement tactics, it can help exponentially drive your net profits. It can blacken your bottom line. And that's why I'm doing the podcast, because I care about you and your business. I want you to do well. Okay, so let's get to number 1. One is increase customer satisfaction. And you can sometimes measure customer satisfaction through surveys and customer feedback. And you can use that formal data to make improvements and adjust your business processes so you can increase their satisfaction. Just know that if you do a survey though, or you ask for some kind of formal feedback, typically the response rate or the participation rate is going to be fairly low, usually 10% or lower. So that's not a bad thing. Don't talk yourself into believing that you've done something wrong or, your customers don't like you if you get that kind of a percentage of participation. And sometimes though, I remind my clients, the best customer survey is just the one-on-one. That's a good way to just measure and monitor, and people will typically not have any issue answering questions that you ask them about how you are doing as a business for them. And that kind of like informal, relaxed, conversational tone can really glean some things that you may not understand. I know I've had clients where they thought they were very clear in some of their offerings, and come to find out when they had some of these informal discussions with customers, they found out that a couple of those things were clear as mud and people didn't fully understand what they had to offer. So when they were able to go through the process of making sure that they had crystallized that communication, then it was amazing how their sales increased as well as their net profits. So just, keep that in mind. I mean, there are a lot of things that we can do to measure customer satisfaction. The second thing is to obviously increase your sales. Analyze your data and the buying habits of your customers to create targeted campaigns and promotions that increase sales. But as you do this, I want to add something that a lot of my clients, my people miss. When you are focusing on increasing sales, do it from a profitability perspective. See, a lot of people think, if I just increase sales, I'm good to go. That is not always true. You want to make sure that you are targeting the products or services that bear the highest profit margins for you. And really analyze that data. Make sure that there's profitability. I've said this in other podcasts. Sometimes we have high sales volume for something that actually we have a loss in. So the higher the sale, the lower our profit. We've actually just eaten into other profit areas. So really measure that when you're looking at increasing your sales. Number 3, increase your efficiency. Oh my gosh, this is like the evergreen of all evergreen topics when it comes to business. Making sure that you track your key performance indicators, KPIs, some call it, such as customer response time or customer service wait time, employee productivity, so that you can identify the areas that need to increase efficiency. This is a way to drive performance. Sometimes it's amazing how much time is lost and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort or time to do informal time studies. But I definitely urge you to do them. Just eyeball some of your people at work. It's the type of thing that I can't turn off. I don't care what business I work or I'm walking into, whether I'm working with them or not. When I walk into a business, I'm always watching people in motion. Are their motions productive? Is it performance related? Are there time wastes? Are there inefficiencies? Are there broken processes? What's happening that's affecting either positively or negatively the profitability of that company? Well, you can look at your own business through the lens, through those eyes, and, just kind of ask yourself, if I were an objective viewer, what would I see when I'm watching? And by doing that, it can help you identify some needed changes, which can then further drive measurable performance. Number 4, increase revenue. Monitor customer spending patterns to identify potential upsells and cross-selling opportunities so you can drive some additional revenue. It's amazing how many times employees miss not only opportunities, but needs that their customers have that they could fulfill. We're helping people when we authentically upsell and cross-sell things that they need, things that would benefit them, things that would make their lives or their businesses better. So when you approach increasing revenues with that perspective, it doesn't come off as some kind of smarmy sales tactic. Don't waste your time doing that. It's going to backfire on you. But instead, do it genuinely from a place that says, I really want to help the people that we serve, and I want to make sure that our customers or clients are the people that we are serving the best, the most. And so when you begin to have that attitude and take on that perspective, it changes what you begin to see as ways that you can help people. Well, number 5 is increase your operational performance. So analyze your processes so that you can identify bottlenecks and breakdowns in your processes. Or, as I said a few minutes ago, to make sure that everyone is following and utilizing processes. I've had many clients where I go in and they actually have very nicely done formalized processes with written instructions as well as verbal trainings. And yet when they did a walkthrough of their own business, or in many cases, when I walked through with them, because I oftentimes spur that with my coaching clients, we discover that people are still not utilizing those processes. And there can be a myriad of reasons why that happens. Sometimes an employee still lacks the confidence. Maybe there was something in the training elements that was missing. And so they don't have all of the information, even though on the surface it may appear that way. Sometimes, sadly, there are some sour apples in the bunch when it comes to employees, and other employees have soured their thought processes. And so they've talked them out of, if you will, following a company standard or a system. So look at all of that and make sure that you do have good, clear, identified operational processes in place. And then again, make sure that everyone is utilizing them, because if not, then that's going to impact the streamlining, the smoothness, the quickness of what takes place. And all of that is going to flow down to your net profits. 6, reduce costs. Track and monitor your expenses and really look into any cost-saving strategies that you might be able to implement to reduce some of those costs. Now, there are some things that are investments. They're not, I don't really consider them an expense. Training is one of those. If you are training exceptionally well, that is an investment for your company. It will save money, time, and energy in the long run. There's no question about that. But there are some expenses that sometimes we just keep paying the bill, but we don't really pay attention to the results. And that's something that we can and should fix. So sometimes I'll do it with my clients. Sometimes I just recommend and advise them to do it. It depends on their scenario, what works best for them. Sometimes they need the accountability of me doing it with them. If they do, that's fine. So be it. Some of them are fine just saying, "Oh yeah, that's great, Anita. We'll take care of that." And then they report the results to me later. But regardless of how you approach it, make sure that you're really going through your financial statements and looking at each of those line items and seeing if there's anywhere that you've missed that you can reduce costs. 7 is improve your customer retention. Oh my gosh, I could get on a whole soapbox over this one. How many times do we spend almost all of our efforts on getting new customers or clients instead of working hard to care for, maintain, support the existing customer or client relationships we already have? Measure your customer retention rates and use customer feedback to identify areas where improvements can be made so you can expand, enhance customer loyalty. I'm telling you, if your customers feel cared for, that's why I don't use the term customer service very much. I more often say customer care. But if your customers or clients feel cared for, it's really difficult for them to switch to a competitor or to move their business someplace else. So make sure that you're looking at how well you're retaining your customers. And there are measurables that you can do, that you can follow, that make sure that you understand truly what is happening with your customers. You know, are they a one and done and then they move on? Or are they customers or clients that are coming back time and time again? If you are performing exceptionally well, then your customers will return. If you're not, they're going to turn away. And then finally, reduce customer churn. Track customer churn rates and create strategies to identify and address any customer dissatisfaction so you reduce customer churn. So think of it like, churning. I'm thinking like in a barrel and you just like water is just churning and splashing all over the place. That represents chaos and confusion. And oftentimes, those are the greatest factors that drive your customers away from your business. So think about creating calming waters in place of the customer churn. So how you do that is you make sure that you communicate early and often, that you are clear and consistent in how you can benefit that customer or client and improve their lives, and making sure that the follow through from your employees, from the day-to-day operations, matches the expectation that you set. And a lot of that comes from making sure that your marketing is aligned with what reality is in as far as that customer experience. But those are some ways that you can make sure that you don't let customer churn get the best of you. So make sure you track and measure, and then be very intentional to create strategies to identify and address any dissatisfaction, and then turn that problem upside down. Make that unhappy customer one of your raving fans. Well, I hope this has helped you today. Again, driving measurable performance in business is a passion of mine, because if you are not performing in a way that is lending to net profitability, you are not going to be able to sustain yourself over the long haul. And that is my mission for you, is that not only will you be in business for a long time, that you as a leader will be inspiring and influencing and motivating people to greater degrees, but that you will feel happier as you do it. Until next time, stay intentional, be exceptional. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. There's magic in meeting with an objective, and I always have an objective for you, not only in these episodes, but also from the other resources I offer on my website, anitabrooks.com. That's ANITABROOKS.com. There you'll find information on digital courses, webinars, books, workbooks, of course, my in-person P4 power coaching for businesses and organizations. And if you need a speaker for your conference or your strategic retreat, I'm your gal. But I'm also excited to let you know about a new service that we're offering. For less than half the price of a daily Starbucks latte for a month, you can join our P4 Power Coaching community. This is a monthly membership where you'll get insider tips, and you'll also be able to join our monthly Zoom meetings that are one part strategy sessions, one part mastermind, one part networking, one part coaching. I can promise you, you'll not only learn from me, but you'll learn from others in the group. We'll also have monthly webinars as part of the P4 Power Coaching community, and we'll have coaching resources and exercises. And you'll get first opportunities and special offers for many of the other things that we have to offer. And of course, you will get leadership encouragements. The P4 Power Coaching community is all about growth, success, and celebrating our wins. And remember, it's never too late for a fresh start with fresh faith. So embrace your exceptional leadership impact with fresh resolve to make the difference you were made for.